Have you ever questioned whether you are truly capable of becoming more than the patterns you've been struggling with? A lot of people carry a fear that something inside them was changed permanently by what they lived through, and now they're forever stuck with the anxiety, the overthinking, the stress, the overwhelm, and the unwanted behaviors. They feel like maybe they survived what happened to them, but they'll never fully be the same again. I understand why people feel that way. I felt that way for decades. I felt broken, and I thought that the best I could hope for was to learn to manage my brokenness. True healing didn't feel like a possibility. And the truth is, hardship does shape us. And when we talk about hardship, I want to be clear that hardship can look very different for each of us. Sometimes it's experiences that are clearly traumatic, and sometimes it is the more ordinary, everyday experiences that still deeply affect the nervous system and the way we move through life. Things like growing up in environments where our emotions were too much, or where the kind of care that was needed wasn't the kind of care that was available. And whatever your personal circumstances and experiences were, you, like everyone else, adapted to become who you needed to be to get through them. Maybe for you it felt safer to stay quiet, safer to be uber helpful, to stay productive, easy, agreeable, highly independent. Maybe handling everything yourself felt less painful than relying on people who didn't feel emotionally safe or consistent. And all of this makes perfect sense when we remember that humans are experts at adapting. We slowly shape ourselves around what feels necessary to stay connected, protected, accepted, or safe. And after years of adapting, it can become hard to separate who you are from who you had to become. You may start to see your adaptations as your identity. It's just who I am. I'm just anxious, I'm too sensitive, I'm too emotional, I'm not enough, I'm easily overwhelmed, etc., etc. You may also identify yourself based on your behavioral patterns like emotional eating, drinking, or being unmotivated. But what if the patterns you find yourself stuck in aren't evidence that you're broken? What if they're survival adaptations that can change when properly tended to? This conversation reminds me of the Japanese practice called Kintsugi. This is the practice of repairing broken pottery with solid gold. And in that way, the broken and repaired piece becomes more valuable than if it had never been broken. Instead of hiding the cracks or pretending the break never happened, the cracks become part of the piece itself. The history of the item remains visible, but the piece is still beautiful, still worthy of care. Your own healing is like this. Healing doesn't mean becoming the version of you that existed before life shaped you. Healing can be understanding yourself differently, understanding why your nervous system developed certain patterns, understanding that many of your reactions make sense in the context of what you've lived through, understanding that your survival responses are not character flaws, right? The behaviors, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the people-pleasing, the shutdown, all of it. These patterns were intelligent attempts to protect you, to help you function, to help you belong, to help you avoid pain. The problem is that survival patterns that once protected you can become limiting your life. They can make it hard for you to connect with others, hard to love yourself, hard to follow through on what feels important, hard to express yourself and be authentic, hard to feel alive and present in your life. And if we don't understand adaptation, we often respond to these patterns with shame. We think, what's wrong with me? Instead of, what happened to me that made this pattern necessary? There's a really important difference between being broken and being adapted. Broken suggests defectiveness. Being adapted means your system responded intelligently to what it experienced. And when we approach ourselves with understanding and compassion, we're able to create the conditions we need to adapt again, this time towards wholeness, truth, and possibility. In my book, You're Not the Problem, I walk through the steps needed to create the safety and the capacity and the energy that's needed to adapt again. We have the power to teach our nervous system that it doesn't have to organize around protection anymore. Your body can begin experiencing moments of safety and connection and rest that once felt impossible. You can reconnect with parts of you that survival mode pushed aside for a long time. And you can change your thinking, your feelings, and your behaviors to match who you truly are instead of who you thought you needed to be. Now, you can not only fill in the cracks of your life, but you can fill them in with solid gold. And this isn't pretending that bad things never happened or becoming hardened or erasing your history, but it's the loving, attuned care from an internal resource. Healing is learning what happened to you doesn't limit who you're allowed to be next. So if part of you has been carrying the fear that you're too damaged, too shut down, too disconnected, too weak, I want you to hear this. You're not the problem. Who you had to become to survive is not who you have to stay forever. Let's continue this conversation by heading over to the website, checking out the book, and getting clear on what you need to create the foundational elements of healing. I've put some links below in the video description. And if this message resonates with you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me get more relevant information to you and spread the word to others. And as always, I invite you to send this message to someone who needs to be reminded that they're not the problem. I'll see you soon.